buttercream or fondant? Which do you prefer? In this video, I'm going to show you how I made a Christmas cake in fondant, and then I'm also going to make a version in buttercream too. So I'm going to start by making some bows. Now I'm actually making these in modeling paste. You can make them in fondant. And I'm making the bows first because I'm going to use these same bows on both the buttercream version and the fondant version of the cake. I am not good enough at buttercream yet to be able to make bows in buttercream. But I'm starting with a couple of teardrops for each bow and kind of squashing them a little bit flat and then sort of making them more kind of bean shape. Would you say a bean shape, like a kidney bean shape? And these are going to make the two halves of my bow. I'm going to kind of press a bit of a point on one side and try and put a little bit of a dip in with a modeling tool just here. What I'll do is I'll link below the video to everything I'm using as well. The handle of this modeling tool is quite useful for putting in little indentations. They're going to go at the top of each bit of the bow. And then a little oval in the middle of my bow. Kind of push the pieces together. So for the fondant one, I'm going to use some green fondant and I'm going to roll it into like a little swag shape. Is it a swag shape? Part of the garland. So it's thin at each end and a little bit chunkier in the middle. And I'm going to have to curve it up like that. So it kind of loops like that. That'll go on the cake. Just get 5 of these ready. I have divided my cake into 5. And I'm going to push them onto the cake. Now I have marked out the cake. I've stuck them on with a little bit of water on the back of these. And then to make them look a little bit more like they are actually wreaths, I'm going to just cut into them with some scissors. I'm not going to put a huge amount of these little lines in. And then we're going to decorate them with a variety of sprinkles. So I've got all different sprinkles here. The large ones are filled with like chocolate in the middle, which makes them really nice. Push them on pretty firmly, otherwise they can drop off. Also, you can use a bit of water or edible glue to help hold them in place as well. Gonna add some snowflake shaped ones, some little tiny stars. You can use whatever you want, or you can make your own little decorations for the garland. Sprinkles are just quick and easy for me to use though for this design. And some cute little gingerbread men that came in one of my packs of sprinkles. So once those are on, I can attach my bows. I've done some pretty large bows for this one. I did actually make this one so that the Grinch that I made in an earlier video had a cake to go on as well, so you can check that out. I'll put a link below the video for that one and you can check that out there. Now let's have a go at making the same kind of cake, but this time using buttercream instead of fondant. So for the buttercream cake, I am gonna cheat and use some pre-made stuff. Caramel gloss frost. Let's give it a go. I've not tried it before. You can of course just make your own buttercream for this, guys. It's pretty hard. I am going to microwave it for a few seconds. It is nice and white, so it should hopefully take the colour well. I've not got much food colour left, but let's see how we get on. So I did actually add a little bit more pink food colour into this because I didn't have much left. I went and opened another bottle. So I covered my entire cake and I scraped it as smooth as I could. Now I apologise those of you guys that are really good with buttercream. I am not overly good with buttercream. I don't do it very often, so I still do need a bit of practice. I think if I did it more, I would find it easier to get it nice and smooth. I did put it in the fridge for a little bit and then I was able to trim off the top parts that were just sticking out a bit. I then mixed some buttercream to a nice green colour. I tried to get it the same kind of colour that the fondant one was. Next, I chose from my nozzle selection a couple of piping tips that I thought would look nice on this one. Off the top of my head, I can't remember which nozzles they are, but I will link below the video which nozzles I've used for you guys. So next I mark where I'm going to pipe because I'm not very good at piping freehand, so I marked that on with a cutter. And then I'm using one of the smaller nozzles, and I did go slightly darker with the pink, but only a little bit, to put on some little teardrop shapes. Again, I needed a bit more practice. I should have practiced just on the work surface or something before putting it on the cake. And then some nice green piping for the garland bit, following those little loops that we put on there. I used 2 different size piping nozzles for this one. And then when that's on, I added some red bows. So these are the same bows as what I put on my fondant one. You can see my buttercream has softened a little bit because you can see it dipping a bit where I had the bow. I say buttercream, it's more frosting on this one than it is buttercream. But we're going to decorate those garlands in exactly the same way as we did on the fondant one. So I'm just going to use a variety of different sprinkles on there. I have to be careful not to push my fingers in. I really should find my cake decorating tweezers for this because it would make it a whole lot easier. the tiny star sprinkles, I'm able to stick those to my brush so they're easier to pick up. And let's add a bit more garland now. I was gonna just keep it as the bit around the top so it matched the fondant one, but actually I was enjoying the piping on this, so I just kept adding a bit more and a bit more. Richard was in the background telling me to just stop now. I was going over the top. I could have added more than what I did. So I liked having like more of this frosting on the top. Again, I thought it looked nice and quite wreath-like. Richard thought I'd gone overboard. Add more sprinkles. And why not some more piping? I just looked for anywhere that I could squeeze in some little dots or some little teardrop shapes with the smaller little nozzle. The close-up shots, you can see that my buttercream is not particularly neat and tidy, but I think with a bit more practice, if I have a go at a few more buttercream cakes, then, you know, I can improve on this. So there's the buttercream one done too. Do you prefer the fondant or do you prefer the buttercream one, guys? I actually, when I'd got the colours mixed, I preferred the buttercream one. It's just prepping it, and I even used a ready-made buttercream or frosting, which should have made my life easier too. I would have piped way more on this actually if I wasn't going overboard, just because I was actually enjoying the piping, even though I still need a lot more practice. Hope you enjoyed this one anyway, guys, and I'll see you for the next one soon. I made this cake so that the Grinch could sit on a cake or even next to a cake. So there is a video for making the Grinch cake topper too, so don't forget to check that one out.